My preferred aggregation service is Draft2Digital, and really the reason I like Draft2Digital is I love the interface. I find it very easy to use, and over time I found them to be more innovative. They're always bringing great new innovations and changes to make authors' lives easier, and I'll show you one of those in a moment or two. The key components of Draft2Digital is that you just upload your Word document and your book is automatically changed to a .mobi, a .epub or a PDF file. That takes a lot of technical headaches away from you, and it distributes to Kobo, iBooks, Nook, Scribe, Tolino, Page Foundry and Oyster automatically. You just press publish and off it goes, and it goes to each of the channels and they're approved, and then it automatically generates the listings for you. So it saves you an awful lot of time listing individually on each of those channels. What I love about it is it creates really easy table of contents. If you've ever had to create tables of contents in Word, it's not something that I particularly like doing. It formats everything beautifully. It also lets you have things like front and end matter, and that's things like dedications, about the author. You can have links to your other books. And what I really love about Draft2Digital is when you've got multiple books on, it lets you pull in sort of also written by this authors very, very easily. It just automatically adds them to the menu there. So they've added those since I've started to use them. And this is why I say I love it as an innovative outlet, because they're always introducing things that just make them much cooler, much easier for authors to use, and much better, frankly, for making sales. So you can see the fees there. So our fee at most sales channels is approximately 10% of the retail price, so 15% of the net royalties, which means that you're getting something knocked off your earnings by Draft2Digital as a courtesy for you using the site. So effectively, they're taking their cut. It's not a high cut, but they are taking their cut. So you need to be aware of that. And again, if this is really important to you, you need to read the small print of Smashwords to see what you're retaining as an author. And you need to read the small print of Draft2Digital to see how much of that cash you're retaining. But all in, to be honest with you, I just accept that it saves me a lot of time being able to list through Draft2Digital. I don't sell the majority of my books through Draft2Digital. I sell the majority of my books through KDP, which is the typical experience for most authors. So I'm very, very happy to save the time and the trouble and to have everything taken care of for me by Draft2Digital. The other great thing about Draft2Digital is that you can set your prices in different territories. So you've got customization of how much you're charging in different territories. And again, the more you learn about this on podcasts, you'll find, for instance, that you need to be very careful with your pricing in places like India. If selling in India is very important, you need to put your prices right down in India. And so that control geographically over your pricing is a really useful thing to have. And again, Draft2Digital were one of the first to introduce this. Many more are following suit now, but it's a really handy thing to have as an author. This is one of the key reasons why I love Draft2Digital. I said that they continue to innovate, and they've innovated in their interface and how easy they make it for authors. But they also fairly recently created this books to read function. Now this is quite important. It's a little bit geeky, but it's quite important because it allows you to create universal links for your books. And it allows readers, when they use your universal links or anybody else's universal links, to say, actually, I prefer to buy from Amazon, I prefer to buy from iBooks, so that when they click on your universal link, they will be taken to the outlet of their choice. Now, what is a universal link? Well, a universal link is a link that you can hand out on social media, on your blog, in your emails, and when people click on it, it will enable them to go to your book in any of the stores that you're listed on through Draft2Digital. And that's really, really important. So let me just grab one of my links and show you what this looks like. So if I copy that link and I'll put it in an incognito window so that you can see it as a user would see it. So this is the second in my Secret Bunker trilogy. I could distribute that link to my readers, to my social media followers and people like that. And they would then be able to choose the store of their choice. Now, normally, people will just distribute the Amazon store link. But if you're a Nook reader, or if you read on iBooks, that's no good to you at all, and you're potentially losing those sales. Whereas with this situation, I can say, actually, I prefer to read books on Apple devices. I can then say that I prefer Apple as my store. I can set a preferred store here, and I can then continue, and it will automatically direct me to the iTunes store. Now that's really, really important because people read your books on different devices. So being able to send out one link which enables buyers to access all stores is clearly a great thing for you as an author. So this is why I tend to be predisposed to like Draft2Digital, because they're always innovating with tools like that, and that's a wonderful tool for an author to have. And again, because you've got your books listed on Draft2Digital, it automatically pulls them into things like this universal link system. So really, again, as with all these things, it's up to you. I'm just showing you the options. My preferred preference, or my preference, is for Draft2Digital for the reasons I've explained. I certainly wouldn't rule out in the future, when I'm writing fewer books and I've got more time to think about marketing, to be listing my books on Smashwords and Draft2Digital. I've got nothing against Smashwords, but if it was a toss-up between the two, if you asked me for my preference would be for Draft2Digital. Both are great sites, both are highly recommended, and what I suggest you do is try them both and see which you prefer.